Hey guys, welcome back. Now, after a big run up to the Bitcoin ETFs, where we saw a big breakout, a big breakdown, and now with prices surging again, does this mean that we are back? Bitcoin is back, showing strength with a nice little breakout as we speak, which could be signaling the next big move is upon us. Also, we have stocks blasting up to new all-time highs, so the question is, where is this nasty recessionary crash which is meant to spoil the party? And so, as always, lots of good stuff to cover, including firstly, we'll compare how is this bull market progressing against the previous ones, and are we still on track to get to the mania stage? Then we'll zoom in and take a look at the halving years in particular and gather any insights into what may be coming next. And then we'll finish with the biggest developments that have happened in crypto in just the past couple of weeks. Okay, so first up, after a healthy correction for Bitcoin of 20%, with some altcoins falling 50%, are we still on track for a big 2024? Well, let's find out. And so, starting with where are we in this bull market cycle and how does this compare to the previous ones gone? Are we still going to get this big mania stage, which I'm sure everybody is waiting for? So this chart revolves around days from the halving. So halving going through the center here. This is how many days until the halving and then post halving. And as ARK Invest recently pointed out, the halving is very close to signaling the big mania stage of the bull market. But we have to remember the bull market actually started all the way back from the actual bottom. And even though this certainly does not feel like a bull market with lots of drops and spikes and drops, lots of uncertainty, that is just the nature of the early bull market. So where are we right now? Well, it's a little bit hard to see, but we're somewhere in here and really not long away from the halving. So what we'll do is we'll just take a look at each cycle and see if there's any insights that we can pull out, starting with cycle 1, which was a blow off 300 times increase, cycle 2 and cycle 3. Starting with cycle 1, and this was the birth of Bitcoin, and this is where we're at right now. And you know what? We're really not far away of keeping track with this, which went on to do an insane run over the next year. And this one actually topped out. It was only 1 year after the halving where we saw the top. Now, this one is the cycle that I least like to compare against, as 15 years ago is an eternity in crypto, and it was a very small market and very small prices. So let's move on to cycle 2. As we can see, Bitcoin, especially with this latest little run, is actually showing a lot of strength. And again, we're now ahead of this cycle. So right now, Bitcoin is very, very strong. And you can see each cycle has its own path. This one was peaking while this one was dipping, peaking while dipping. In some respects, this is the opposite of what happened in this cycle, which is very, very interesting. Now, does it say anything about what's coming to the halving? So what I think is likely going to happen is something very similar. I can totally see us getting another big run up in anticipation to the halving. And whether it happens just before or whether it happens exactly at the halving, this is when we'll see likely another sell-off, and it'll probably be a sell the news event, but then we enter one of the most exciting periods in crypto's history, which is this period here just before the major run. And this happens only every 4 years. Now, I don't think the run is going to be quite as steep as this. This was a hell of a move, which means it got a very nasty correction. And in fact, the peak before the halving, it took about 4 months for it to get back to the peak. And this is why I'm personally not a fan of massive moves up. Although extremely exciting, you get harsh drops and you get a lot of weeks, if not months, of having to stomach those massive gains before you get back to where you were. And then cycle number 3. And interestingly, again, we are ahead of this cycle. So to me, this says that the crypto market is looking very, very strong. Now, we did have this crazy anomaly of a COVID global pandemic crash, which, fingers crossed, I really don't think we're going to be seeing. So if we can try and scrub this bit out, what can we see? In the previous cycle, prices were about here, and at the halving, there was a small increase. So this, without this big crash here, we probably would have got some kind of run, some kind of pullback, bringing us to prices that are not too dissimilar from where we are now. So again, I see that we're probably going to get some kind of run up, 50k to 60k, probably a sell-off back down to the price where we are right now before we move into this very exciting period here. But again, just note that at the halving, there is some kind of sell the news event, and it can take months for us to get back setting new highs. So we need to start preparing our psychology for the next stage. Now, looking at the data a little bit differently, and this one's from Into the Cryptoverse, and this time it's the actual halving years of 2012, 2016 and 2020, but this time we're looking at the data from January to January, which is why even though we're here right now, you can see the COVID crash is a little bit further down the line, just how the data is put together. So what insights can we gather from this? Well, a couple jump out to me. First is that Q1 is very, very turbulent. It certainly isn't straight lines going up. You can see big runs and then nasty sell-offs. Here, big runs and then nasty sell-offs. Starting the year with a big sell-off. So a very uncertain sell-off type period you can see from the start of the year. So far, what we've seen with this last sell-off is nothing out of the ordinary. Second thing that jumps out to me is this is the starting point, but then look at the finishing point. We have a finishing point here, here, and here. So even though each one has a different path with different runs, different corrections, they all finish the year significantly higher. So to me, this is a very bullish chart with a very clear trend that it's going to be a very good year. And aside from the trend being clearly up and to the right, it's going to be filled with booms and busts along the way. And so for the vast majority of people, probably 99% is not to try and trade the market because you don't want to mess up. Leave the trading to the professional traders, and just being a hodler and being able to ride out the roller coaster, history says you're going to be richly rewarded. So again, this says to me, don't worry about the turbulent times at the beginning of the year, and that the halving year historically, especially in the last quarter, should be very, very rewarding. Again, another bullish chart. And now, finishing up with some of the top developments from all around the world. Firstly, we had a big change by Google. So for many years, Google did not let anybody advertise anything to do with crypto. It was all banned. But recently, after the Bitcoin ETFs went live, they've rewritten the rules, and now we can see advertising for crypto. So this is a big milestone that's happened in just the past couple of weeks. And now we have huge financial services companies advertising crypto on Google. So this is a great milestone and great to see. Then, obviously, from the other side of the world, they've seen everything going on with the US ETFs that went live and the massive trading volumes that's happened. And now Hong Kong want to get in on the action. And here we have 10 financial institutions in the country intending to file for their Bitcoin ETFs. So the same thing is happening in the other side of the world. So this is great to see. Then pro-crypto president of Argentina recently made a new change to the taxes and drops crypto tax plan, essentially making it easier for people to buy, hold, and sell crypto without unnecessary taxes. And he's basically moving this to how it's been done in the West, where you only get taxed on your capital gains. So more bullish developments coming from Argentina. We see that MetaMask has made a deal with Robinhood that broadens crypto access. And essentially, they've made a partnership creating a better bridge between traditional banking rails and blockchain-based crypto economy. So massive deals between the niche crypto companies and mainstream traditional financial services. Great to see. Also, some great news for Ethereum. So GoDaddy is one of the biggest places where you can register your domain names for your websites and has over 20 million users. And the Ethereum name service has joined forces, and this means it's now easy to merge traditional domain names with your Ethereum domain name. Again, integration into the real world. Then we have massive traditional financial services websites. This is the Motley Fool, and they're also coming out with big predictions. Interestingly, this one says that Bitcoin will reach $150,000 in 2025. And if you watched my video on price predictions, this is the figure that I got to as well, which was interesting. And they've written a full piece at the Motley Fool breaking down exactly why they think this is going to happen. But again, more coverage from the traditional financial world, opening the doors to crypto. And then finally, this is coming up in just a few days, and I think it's going to be a big one. So the CPI figures, the last one we saw was for December. And between November and December, inflation actually increased, and it was a little bit above expectation. And risk assets really did not like this increase. And it really rattled the cage whether the Fed was going to be able to lower rates and use the printing press. Well, as I've pointed out a couple of times in my last couple of videos, this is what has happened since. So in a few days, we're going to get the CPI print for January. And as you can see, there's been quite a significant drop. So I think next week should be a very bullish week. So keep your eyes peeled for February the 13th, just a few days away. And then even 5 weeks ahead of time, inflation has dropped again. So this is an excellent sign and exactly what we want for inflation, because it's excellent for risk assets. And obviously something like this, with inflation increasing, this is what we don't want to see. So again, something very bullish potentially coming just in the next few days. In the past couple of weeks, we've seen a big breakout, a big breakdown, and now it appears another breakout is upon us. When comparing against the previous cycles, everything is looking pretty damn strong. When specifically looking at the halving years, again, nothing seems out of the ordinary. Q1 always seems to be a bit rocky. Each one has its own path, but they all end up significantly higher by the end of the year. So it's a very bullish chart. And the developments are now coming back in from all around the world, from China wanting to get in on the ETF action to top financial websites giving huge Bitcoin price predictions. This time saying by 2025 it's going to $150,000. And the big one coming in next week, guys, is the next CPI print for January, coming February the 13th, so just a few days away. And from what I can see, there's going to be a nice drop in CPI, which should be very bullish for risk assets. So I, for one, am clearly looking forward to that. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Now let me know, what do you think about how this bull market is progressing? Are we still going to get a blow off top towards the end of the year? Let me know below. However, just remember to get rid of 100% of the comment spam and trading bots that plague YouTube comments. We are trying out the new SuperThanks Commenting system. So to get your question or comment read and replied to, or just to say thanks, then use SuperThanks below. And for now, just to say, if you did enjoy anything in the video, then drop a like, and a big thank you to everyone who does, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.